We will now move to agenda item 5D, strengthening member state collaboration on improving access to medicines in the WHO European region. The relevant document is contained in EUR RC67/14. The relevant draft decision is contained in document EUR/RC67 Conf Doc 9. Access to medicine is an increasing concern for all of us. This session, we will discuss the proposed strategic area related to access to medicines, the collaboration opportunities for member states, and the supporting role that the regional office can play. Successful collaboration and progress in this era is crucial for obtaining the 2030 Agenda on Sustainable Development, but is highly dependent on the political will of member states and on providing support that meets country needs. Our voice of the region this time is Josep Probst from Austria. Please start the film.
My name is Joseph Probst. I'm Director General in the roof organization of Austrian Social Security. It's called Hauptverband. We have to decide about reimbursement and we have to negotiate with the industry about the pricing of the pharmaceuticals. What we notice nowadays is that there are more and more pharmaceutical companies with monopoly products that do an extremely high pricing of new products. So that's causing problems even for affluent systems like the Austrian social healthcare system is. We have to be strong defenders of the Austrian social security system, and this Austrian social security system is an important basis for our society, an important basis for our Austrian economy. We try to keep the co-payments as low as possible. For example, we have a cap on co-payments for pharmaceuticals. The upper ceiling is about 220 euros a year, and no one should pay more than 2% of his net income on co-payment to pharmaceuticals. We spend about 3.5 billion euros on pharmaceuticals a year for 120 million packages of medicines. 1/3 of this budget is consumed by high-priced medicines. Only 600,000 packages of high-priced medicines cost us 1/3 of our pharmaceutical budget. And that's a challenge for an affluent system in Austria that's not bearable anymore. There is quite a few different cases that cause problems in Austria. One is, for example, the topic of hepatitis C or the new cancer drugs that are skyrocketed priced. And for example, for hepatitis C, since the middle of 2014 up to now, we paid for 3,500 people 250 million euros. How do you negotiate with a monopolist? He does not bargain. We have to do two things. The one thing is we have to use the tools we have. We have to collaborate cross-border. One of the tools is HTA, one of the tools is horizon scanning, one of the tools is joint procurement, and even we have to think about mandatory licensing and use tools that have not been used the last years. And on the other hand, and that's the second real important topic, we have to change the rules of the game, because pharmaceutical companies are using the IP rights in monopolistic situations to maximize the profit and leave the interest of the people and the public health systems behind. Bessere Gesundheit für alle.
Without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Hans Kluge, Director, Division of Health Systems and Public Health, to introduce the item.
Thank you very much, Madam Executive President, Regional Director. Ladies and gentlemen, as we just saw from the short film, the issue of improving access to medicines in the WHO European region is really at the heart of universal health coverage, both at an individual level and from the perspective of a policymaker. Medicines is the #1 cause to push people into poverty and out-of-pocket payments in our region. In some countries, the cost of 1 month of hypertension treatment equals 1 month of salary. And as a policymaker, the key issue, and we know this from many requests that we are receiving, is at one hand to ensure access to affordable quality drugs, but also ensuring the medium and long-term finance sustainability of the health system. Of our studies, we know that, for example, to treat the whole population of hepatitis C in one country, in the Netherlands, would consume 10.5% of the total pharmaceutical expenditure. In Poland, for example, it would be up to 190.5%. So 2 messages is one, that this is financially not sustainable, and number 2, huge inequalities in the region. Having said that, it's not only cost, it's also an issue of quality. Still a lot of fake drugs around, generic drugs not enough used, fragmentation in procurement, and of course a big issue with the appropriate use of medicines, leading to the big issue of AMR, which has been mentioned time and again at this regional committee. Is improving access to medicines a new issue? As we all know, no, it has been on the global agenda for quite a while, but as we see from this slide, there has been a proliferation of resolutions adopted at the World Health Assembly the last years, showing really an increased momentum to this field. Globally, impetus has been given by the Sustainable Development Goals, in particularly the UHC target 3.8, which includes access to safe, affordable, quality and effective medicines and vaccines for everyone. And regionally, the impetus came from the Health 2020 and the value-based commitments of the Ljubljana Charter and the Tallinn Charter, which clearly stated no one should become poor due to ill health. From this slide, we see that there is indeed an unprecedented appetite to collaborate, to have structured collaboration between countries on a voluntary basis. Above the dateline, you have a number of selected initiatives by the member states, which go hand in hand with a number of key activities by WHO. Just to name a few member state-led initiatives, definitely I should mention the Beneluxa initiative, and credit to Minister Dr. Maggie de Blok, Minister of Health and Social Affairs in Belgium, and Madame Elisabeth Scheppers in her capacity of the Minister of Health, who really initiated this initiative against the concern of rising cost of specialty medicines, then embroidered to Luxembourg and Austria. But there is also, as the Deputy Prime Minister of Malta, Mr. Fern, mentioned yesterday in the panel, the Valletta Declaration. Bulgaria and Romania have signed agreement on joint procurement. They're the Visegrad countries, the Nordic countries, so there is a lot of appetite. And let's not forget the Minsk consensus statement in Belarus last year on treatment for HIV and TB patients for everyone. This has been matched hand in hand with a number of flagship reports, consultations, capacity building and country technical assistance by WHO. Some of those you see below the dateline, particularly in the field of access to new high-priced medicines, strategic procurement, horizon scanning, and pricing and reimbursement. The next slide shows you the process on the development of the decision. It's not a resolution, but a decision that we are proposing today. Below the dateline, you see the formal process. In fact, this was catalyzed, as many of you will remember, by the technical briefing at the Regional Committee in Copenhagen last year, and even before that, when our colleagues of particularly Norway asked WHO to use its convening power and its neutral objective authority to create a public debate on this very important issue. But as important, above the dateline, you see a whole number of meetings and consultations by the team led by Hannebak Pedersen, which provided a lot of input as well. And let me mention the pricing and reimbursement network and also 2 summer schools, generously hosted and financed by the Ministry of Health of Austria, which I would like to express appreciation, particularly to Mr. Clemens Auer. I know that this issue is very close to his heart, and the National Public Health Institute, and also hand in hand with the WHO headquarters. We have here Ms. Sue Hill, the Director of Essential Medicines and Health Products, with us, because this is an issue where we are feeding into each other. And one initiative to mention is the fair pricing. The first forum was hosted by the government of the Netherlands. And what's a fair price? A fair price is defined by, on one hand, the fact that each patient who needs a quality life-saving drug should not be denied, but at the other hand, still gives enough incentive to the industry to come up with the necessary innovation of new medicines, while also keeping the more older generic drugs on the market. This gives you the key elements of the decision. As I was mentioning, it's not a resolution. We explicitly exited from the point that this issue on improving access to medicines and related unsustainable pressures to the health system is really with the leadership of the countries. So the decision is gauging further the interest by the member states into this field. We know from the report of the CEWG, the Consultative Expert Working Group on Research and Development, and also last year's United Nations High-Level Panel on Access to Medicines, that countries have different starting points and also different interests, and that it's very important for countries to balance the public health, the healthcare, and for some countries even industrial policy interests, keeping in mind from our perspective the value-based commitments, and health is a human right. Finally, this very important topic will be carried forward at the 3 main events in Europe next year on universal health coverage. The first one is in April 2018 in Spain, in Sitges, on health systems respond to NCDs, hand in hand with my colleague, Dr. Gordon Galea, where we will bring forward the policy lessons from our multi-year cross-divisional work on health systems for NCD, where, of course, the whole issue of access to medicines is very, very high on the agenda. From there, we take the plane to Tallinn in 13 and 14 June to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the Tallinn Charter, where we will do 2 things. One is, as a group, member states, partners, to reconfirm the social values of solidarity and equity and participation, and also putting forward the vision of health systems in the 21st century. And from there, we continue our journey to October in 2018, where there was a recent meeting between the Director General and our Regional Director and the Ministry of Health of Kazakhstan, with the strong commitment of the DG to make this a truly global event to revive primary healthcare, and obviously the issue of access to medicines will be very key. Let me finish with the words of the Greek philosopher Aristotle, that the whole is always greater than the sum of its parts. Nothing stands in the way of countries to collaborate together to improve access to medicines around the value-based commitments. The key issue is political will and trust. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kluge, and I now open the floor for discussion. Delegates wishing to speak, please raise your nameplate. And I give the floor to Estonia, followed by Austria.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On behalf of the EU and its member states, We would like to voice our appreciation for the actions of the regional office in strengthening member state collaboration on improving access to medicines. We're taking the floor just to include a small amendment in the draft decision on strengthening member state collaboration found in RC67/confdoc/9. So in operative paragraph 2, where it currently reads, supports the focus of the WHO Regional Office for Europe on pricing and reimbursement, etc., we would like it to, after WHO Regional Office for Europe, we would like to add the words on technical support. So to read it from beginning to end, supports the focus of the WHO Regional Office for Europe on technical support, on pricing and reimbursement, etc. This has also been sent to the Secretariat in advance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Estonia, and I give the floor to Austria, followed by Switzerland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Austria aligns, of course, itself with a statement made by the Estonian presidency on behalf of the EU and its member states and support the proposed amendments. Dear colleagues, I think Austria welcomes all WHO activities regarding access to medicines. And I would like to remember everyone in this room that it is not a technical question, it's a high political question, it's a policy question. And I'm a representative of a high-income country, and even as an Austrian representative, we face severe difficulties to guaranteeing equal access to innovative drugs. I'm talking about equal access, not only the access for a few. We're talking about the access of all our patients and all of the population. And this difficulty will continue, ladies and gentlemen. This difficulty will not disappear. There's one American company with the name we all would probably like to forget, which provided us with, honestly, a very good Hep C treatment, which we all pay a very, very high price for. Just bought another small company, which has a promising cancer drug for $11 billion. So each and everyone in this room knows exactly what we will pay for the drug, at least $11 billion. At least $11 billion. So this won't disappear. So Austria will put this topic high on our agenda of the presidency of the European Union, which we will have in 2018. And we, of course, call for close cross-border cooperation on that topic. Hans Kluge mentioned all the initiatives already, which are more than welcome, because we, the member states, we, the governments, we are who are responsible for the public health sectors. We have to overcome the asymmetries in this game. This is a game, and we have to overcome the asymmetries and collaborate and cooperate. It's about the asymmetry and the intransparency regarding pricing, the R&D costs, which really are part of the price of a product, and so many, many other issues. We are welcoming, therefore, strongly the initiative by the European Commission to come up with an effort to have, at least within the European Union, mechanisms for joint HTAs, because we have to learn how to assess the added value of drugs. I would like to also remind us that we have to look in our mirror faces before we talk about the industry. We also have to analyze the policy failures we make by ourselves. Do we know about the public expenditure of R&D for molecules? No, we don't. Do we know exactly what we are asking in the market authorization process, that we have enough evidence to assess the added value of a new drug? No, we don't. Do we know exactly what happens with orphan drugs and the market monopoly we guarantee for the companies? No, we don't. So please, we have to strengthen our work on that and to overcome all of the policy failures. The pharmaceutical industry might be one of the problems, but they work in a market, but we have to frame the market. So we have to talk about policies and increase this talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Austria, and I give the floor to Switzerland, followed by the Netherlands.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Improving access to medicines as well as issues relating to enhancing global medical research, protection of intellectual property, and promotion of human rights, are priorities for Switzerland, and these are explicit objectives of its foreign policy in the field of health. That being so, we welcome the document submitted by the regional office and also the proposals made in that document to strengthen cooperation among member states in order to enhance access to medicines within the European region. Looking at the proposals relating to information sharing and mutual learning appear to us to be especially important. Indeed, we could all benefit from the experience and the lessons learned by different countries throughout our region. It would appear to us to be particularly important to be able to get greater transparency as to the real final cost of medicines in different countries within our region. The regional office should also foster cooperation among countries by itself distributing certain pieces of information. Access to medicines is a challenge that faces all countries, and solutions to that challenge have to be found at the global level. That being so, we applaud the work done by WHO as part of the follow-up to the Global Strategy and Plan of Action for Public Health, Innovation and Intellectual Property. Debate on the question of the access to medicine will continue at the forthcoming session of the WHO Executive Board in January next year. We know there will be discussion then, and it's likely to be focused on recommendations from the high-level panel that has been set up by the UN. Bearing that in mind, we think it's important for Euro countries to define a joint stance on this matter, a stance based on exhaustive analysis of the problems and issues involved, and a stance that would seek to foster a holistic approach to improve access to medicines. Given the global and holistic nature of the 2020 agenda, Switzerland has already mentioned the fact that we very much deplore the extremely restricted nature of the mandate given to the high-level panel. Its report is overly focused on certain points, such as IPRs. In fact, the challenge of access to medicines is more directly related to public health policies, to price-setting policies, to taxation, to type approval, and to the distribution of medical products, as well as other factors. Switzerland therefore supports a holistic approach being taken to this issue. For that reason, we suggest that we think together about evidence relating to ways in which we can overcome the challenges that exist, and we note the proposals made by the Secretariat on the 4th of September at the information session in that regard. We thought they were very useful. We remain available for further discussion with other delegations as to the kind of approach that the European region might take in future debates. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I now give the floor to the Netherlands, followed by the Republic of Moldova.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Netherlands aligns itself with the statement made by Estonia on behalf of the EU and its member states. Improving access to medicine is an item that will be on the national, regional and global agendas for at least the coming decade. That's what we expect. The problem has many aspects and angles, and it has to be addressed at different platforms. While very complex issues like the current system around intellectual property and trade rules, for instance, needs a global approach, individual countries and groups of countries can make progress by doing practical things within the existing global legal frameworks and systems. This is what the document that we discuss today is about. We very much appreciate this document. Knowledge is power, and the domain of pharmaceuticals is no exception to this. By joining forces, such areas as pricing and reimbursement, strategic procurement, information sharing, and mutual learning, countries can jointly approach the pharmaceutical companies and thus improve access to medicines. In this context, the Netherlands was very pleased to host the first WHO Fair Pricing Forum in Amsterdam last May. At the forum, many participants expressed a clear need for greater transparency to understand input into pricing. This transparency is urgently needed because prices of medicine get in some cases too high. We all know the cases of new cancer treatment and hepatitis C that was just illustrated by Dr. Kluger too. As our Austrian colleagues stress, the problem doesn't disappear. We agree that urgent action is needed. Participants of the forum also shared their reservation towards so-called value-based pricing for indispensable products like medicines. Another finding at the forum was that there is a need for governments to take a stronger role and to collaborate with other governments on information sharing on prices and for joint negotiations. Dr. Kluger informed you about the initiative of Belgium, Luxembourg, the Netherlands and Austria to join forces in price negotiations based on a joint health technology assessment and a joint understanding of our willingness to pay. We are pleased to inform you that we have recently launched a website for sharing information on our joint effort. Please have a look at the site beneluxa.org. To conclude, we encourage WHO to continue its work to strengthen member state collaboration on improving access to medicine in the WHO European region, because we are convinced that this will lead to better and affordable medicine for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I give the floor to the Republic of Moldova, followed by Norway.
Спасибо.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues. I'd like to begin by noting the successful long-standing cooperation between my country and the WHO program in the area of health technology and quality of services. We're extremely grateful for that. We remain convinced that improving access to medicines is something that is extremely important in terms of achieving universal health coverage and is a very important part of the Sustainable Development Agenda 2030. Moldova fully supports the document on the strengthening of member state collaboration on improving access to medicines in the WHO European region, including the strategic areas of cooperation which are recalled in the document and which are particularly important for and necessary to member states of the European region. We're grateful to the WHO Country Office in the Republic of Moldova and the European region for providing high-quality expert technical support and advice at a very high level. I would like to emphasize the considerable progress which has been made in strengthening national legislation in Moldova relating to the pharmaceutical sector in order to bring our laws into line with the approach taken in countries of the European Union, in the hope that Moldova will one day join that organization. We receive advice and strategic support on the area of health in general, particularly in the selection and rational use of medicines and strategic procurement of medicines. Let me give you just one of the examples. With WHO support and support from our development partners, Moldova has managed to provide many hepatitis C patients with new medicines and treatments in accordance with WHO recommendations and at prices that have been lower than they would otherwise have been because we have done central procurement. That's been happening only fairly recently. That has moved us much closer to providing full medicines and medical treatment to those who have hepatitis C in Moldova. I think this has been recognized as a major step forward in treating and bringing this disease under control. We are very grateful to the regional director for Europe of WHO, particularly for the working visit which he made to the Center for a Centralized Procurement of Medicines and Drugs in Moldova this year. The exchange of information we had with her and the exchange of experience we've had with the WHO has made things a lot easier for us in tackling this issue and indeed others when we deal with the pharmaceutical industry. The exchange of experience between countries on this kind of issue is very important. I hope and trust that the European Office will continue to support us in this effort and help us to set up a platform for exchange of opinion among member states of the region that will increase transparency, effectiveness, and the way in which this very important area operates. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I now give the floor to Norway, followed by Slovakia.
Thank you, Chair. We thank the Secretariat for this report. Access to medicines is a growing challenge for WHO member states, including for high-income countries. We would like to reiterate our gratefulness to the Regional Office for taking leadership on this issue. We agree with the proposals for strengthened collaboration. Pricing and reimbursement, strategic procurement and information sharing, and mutual learning are key areas for action, recognizing that action is needed in a wide range of technical areas in order to improve the situation in member states. We also support the role outlined for the Regional Office in promoting the efforts of member states and in facilitating collaboration on the advancement of the access to medicines. Norway recognizes the primary role of member states in taking action in these key areas with the support of the Regional Office, working with other relevant initiatives of partners such as the European Commission and the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development as appropriate, understanding that political commitment, resources and mutual trust among member states will be essential for successful collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Norway. And I now give the floor to Slovakia, followed by Poland.
Mr. President, distinguished delegates, Slovak Republic fully supports designed cooperation between member countries in key strategic areas of activity in our region. Mention policies and regulation, medicine section, and data information. Slovak Republic actively cooperates with the project of European Commission, European Price Information Database, WHO pharmaceutical pricing and reimbursement information, and is interested in extending cooperation within horizon scanning and strategic procurement. We are interested in sharing information about prices, suppliers, HTA methodologies. We fully support efforts to improve the transparency of information on the prices and conditions of managed entry agreements and the provision of rebates. MOH is preparing an amendment to act on the scope of conditions for the reimbursement of medicines, medical devices, and dietetic foods on the basis of public health insurance. Its main objective is to create conditions for the availability of high-cost treatment while maintaining its cost effectiveness. It introduces a multi-criteria drug assessment system which results in the different rates for higher values, added medicines, and for lower value medicines. Another amendment is the introduction of cost sharing and risk sharing systems. The opinion for a health insurance company and the holder of a medicinal product to agree on the conditions under which both parties will bear part of the cost of medicines or medical devices from public health insurance, and part will be borne by the holder of the medicine registration. The amendment also aims to significantly reduce or eliminate the patient's surcharge for high-cost medicines, thereby increasing their availability for patients. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I now give the floor to Poland, followed by Spain.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regional Director, colleagues, firstly, let me say that we fully align with the remarks made by Estonia on behalf of the EU and its member states. Poland wishes to thank the Secretariat for preparing the report on access to medicines. This subject is one of the cross-cutting issues in WHO and one of the biggest challenges in ensuring effective healthcare globally, but also in our region. From our perspective, the current prices of innovative medicines do not reflect the real cost of elaboration, production, and registration of these products. This leads to excessive budgetary burden, even in relatively rich countries. It also hampers the right of patients to the best possible therapy. Many of these medicines are not available on the market in certain countries despite the marketing authorization. Such situation is the result of the business strategy of medicines producers. Poland has undertaken several initiatives aimed at improving access to innovative medicines, both domestically and internationally. This subject was one of the priorities during Polish presidency in the Visegrad Group, and it met with high interest also from other states from Central Europe. As a result, political declaration on cooperation in the field of fair and affordable pricing between 6 countries of the region has been concluded in March this year in Warsaw. We call the WHO Secretariat to further work on the problem of access to medicines, and we welcome the inclusion of this topic to the agenda of the upcoming Executive Board meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Poland. And I now give the floor to Spain, followed by France.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Regional Director, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues. Spain aligns itself with Estonia's statement on behalf of the European Union and its member states. Improving access to medicines is of great relevance and a priority for all health systems in Europe. Collaboration among the countries in the European region is a key element to achieve this objective. Spain is aligned and participates actively in all the initiatives that are taking place in Europe. Our country supports voluntary cooperation and all actions geared towards improving and reinforcing access to medicines, such as initiatives to increase transparency, at least in a qualitative manner like sustainability agreements. We are committed to respect the national competence and confidentiality and to share information in the framework of the procurement agreements. Therefore, Spain has endorsed the Valletas Declaration, and a memorandum of collaboration has been signed last July between the Portuguese and the Spanish Ministers of Health. Finally, we support the decision to be adopted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Spain. And I now give the floor to France, followed by Lithuania.
Thank you. France would like to associate itself with the statement made on behalf of the European Union and its member states by Estonia. Ensuring sustainable access for everybody to medicines is a major priority because it touches the effectiveness, sustainability, and fairness of our health systems. This is, of course, a challenge that faces all countries without exception. Medicines need to remain safe, accessible, and affordable, and that should be the goal not only for national health systems, but for WHO as well. We also need to concentrate on innovative medicines coming onto the market at a high cost and causing unprecedented pressure on the health expenditure of member states. For France, guaranteeing access to innovative medicines for everyone is a major priority. France is in the vanguard of developing international cooperation, which should be successful and sustainable for access to such medicines, and has been trying to do this since 2007. You will be well aware that we have given a mandate to the OECD to carry out a diagnosis and make proposals, and its report will be provided at the end of this year. Thus far, 13 countries have agreed to participate in this study. A high-level expert group has been set up, and consultations have been run with patients, members of the pharmaceutical industry, and health professionals by the OECD. The European Regional Office is working, of course, on cooperation between member states to improve access to medicines in the WHO European region, and the work they're doing goes in a similar direction. We support both initiatives. However, since cooperation is voluntary, we would like it to remain so, and we would like it to remain upstream from negotiations on the price of medicines. Any cooperation involved specifically on negotiating price agreements, which is usually done at national level, could make things excessively complicated and lead to a lack of effectiveness. We urge that we concentrate on forward-looking analysis in order to improve our knowledge of the pharmaceutical situation in WHO's European region and its member states. We will also keep a close eye on a good cooperation and coordination between the committee and other organizations already dealing internationally with this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I now give the floor to Lithuania, followed by Hungary.
Thank you, Madam Chair, distinguished delegates, honorable guests. Lithuania fully aligns itself with the statement made by Estonia on behalf of EU and its member states, recognizing the challenges in the field of pharmaceutical policy stipulated by high prices of innovative drugs, highly personalized medicines, and sharing the view to improve the facilitate access to effective and affordable medicines while preserving the sustainability of healthcare system. Lithuania welcomes the initiatives to strengthen the collaboration and networking. We are deeply convinced that exchange of experience, good practice, examples, and information in the field of pricing and reimbursement, as well as training and development of negotiation skills, could help decision makers to build the required capacity and develop useful strategies in order to assure access to the most effective medicines, achieve fair pricing of pharmaceuticals, and control the budgets. It is worth mentioning that countries cooperate in the field of joint procurements and have already accumulated certain experience. For example, the Baltic states, starting the sign agreement in 2012, were between the first countries which have acknowledged the necessity to cooperate in the field of joint procurement and lending of vaccines. As successful example of such collaboration could be mentioned the fact that Lithuania and Latvia have implemented successfully joint procurement of the pneumococcal polysaccharide conjugated vaccine in 2017. The vaccine was purchased at a price 15% lower than it used to be when countries procured all alone. Extending partnership agreement of the Baltic states with the possibility of joint negotiation is under discussion now. Bearing in mind the diversity of legal frameworks, financial resources, as well as structure and organization of health systems in Europe, it is not easy to find solutions that could meet the needs and requirements of all parties. Therefore, in order to improve the accessibility of medicines, Lithuania would support activities related to voluntary cooperation in the field of joint negotiation and joint procurement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I now give the floor to Hungary, followed by Portugal.
Thank you. We are grateful for an excellent document that outlines the key issues, priority areas of work in order to strengthen member states' collaboration in improving access to medicines in the WHO European region. We fully agree with the proposals, in particular on the more participatory approach and the possibilities of long-term cooperation in the access to medicines at the expert level. We welcome to WHO's proposals for encouraging cooperation between different areas which at the regional level are already feasible on the basis of voluntary initiative. In our opinion, there are plenty of examples like horizon scanning, the health technology assessment, exchanging best practices, pricing, reimbursement, the volume or price breakdown of the subsidy, and the efficiency-based contracts. We consider it worthwhile to further develop the conditionality criteria for joint public procurement and to expand beyond vaccines. We also welcome proposal on training of professionals which are indispensable for the labor supply. I would like to mention some examples. First of all, the Visegrad countries with Croatia and Lithuania cooperation in the field of fair and affordable pricing of medicinal products. But the Nordic Forum and the Benelux A Group are also important examples of joint procurement efforts. At the same time, it is important to emphasize that these initiatives will be truly effective only if the political will is going to be sufficiently persistent to provide support for cooperation between the countries concerned with the aim of achieving results by appropriate means and for a sufficient length of time. In conclusion, with regard to future, we can state that the success of the process will be shown by the fact that cooperation meet the needs of the participating countries and provide solutions that can improve patients' access to medicines. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I now give the floor to Portugal, followed by Romania.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. Portugal aligns itself with the remarks made by Estonia on behalf of the European Union and its member states. We also welcome the report strengthening member state collaboration on improving access to medicines in the WHO European region. All WHO Euro member states have been facing a major challenge, the sustainability of health systems, which depends on a delicate balance between access to innovative medicines, safety and financial stability of countries. The current expenditure in medicines and devices is likely to increase in the coming years, we all know, and health ministers face challenging aims and constraints with an increasing need to ensure efficiency and control of healthcare budgets while providing timely access to innovative medicines. That is the reason why Portugal has been defending increased collaboration, pricing and reimbursement, strategic procurement, information sharing and mutual learning as a key to successfully ensure access to innovative medicines while guaranteeing health systems sustainability. The importance of a continued dialogue and also the sense of urgency of that dialogue between governments, industry and patient representatives is well acknowledged, and some medicines are going to be unaffordable in the near future. New ways to assess added value of medicines and corresponding ways to price the products and finance them based on measurable health outcomes and results have to be debated and addressed. Portugal is, as you may know, one of the subscribers of the Valletta Declaration, also integrating the technical committee created within this EU member states collaborating platform. We have high expectations about the contribution of WHO can bring to this debate so that greater transparency can be pursued in determining the costs of researching and developing new medicines and how they are reflected in the final price of medicines. The WHO report is aligned with our concerns on the subject, and we count on this organization to provide support regarding this strengthened cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I now give the floor to Romania, followed by the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Madam President. Distinguished Regional Director, distinguished delegates and guests. First of all, I want to congratulate Dr. Kluge and the team for the extremely brief and clear report regarding developments and solutions for access to affordable drugs in European Regional WHO. Romania strongly supports the activities and of WHO Euro in order to put in place mechanisms to make affordable the necessary drugs and to reduce inequities between people and countries. In Romania, we have the smallest regulated prices in the European Union for drugs, but we currently face shortages in certain molecules to be available due to parallel export, which affect us, and this parallel is done in other countries of the European Union and put problems regarding some public health issues. Pricing, reimbursements, the introduction of new drugs should take into account all aspects, national, regional, international. Common pricing policies and procurement, information sharing should be put in place as soon as possible. WHO Regional Office for Europe may offer the technical support and may advise in order to give a chance to universal access to medicine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I now give the floor to the Russian Federation, followed by Armenia.
Regional Director, President, colleagues, the Russian Federation supports the report here by the WHO, and we note that it's very important to have an objective assessment for regulators when it comes to the allocation of resources. Measures to manage resources, taking into account international experience introduced by states, enable us to control and to predict the requirement for the healthcare systems. And it allows us to establish our prices. I would like to flag up the importance of an appropriate assessment and access to costly medicines such as cancer treatment, treatment for HIV, viral hepatitis, neglected diseases, and some breakthrough medicines, and also access to high technology methods of treatment. We deem relevant information exchange on global and regional regulatory decisions when it comes to the use of medicine. We underscored the importance for healthcare systems of reports on the safety of medicines as per the international monitoring system of the WHO. At the same time, we suggest looking at the issue of updating the list of essential medicines of the WHO, guaranteeing the freeing up of resources for new treatments and medicines, excluding old ones. It is vital to look at regional specific features when it comes to forming the list of essential medicines. These specific features are determined by local partners for antibiotic resistance, and when it comes to tackling TB, I would like to point out that cooperation between the WHO and Russia in guaranteeing accessibility to medicines has enabled us to integrate into our national healthcare system cutting-edge approaches when it comes to assessing clinical and economic efficacy of modern pharmaceutical preparations. One of the results of such work was the adoption of a state strategy on medical provision and also creating special strategies to tackle socially significant diseases, including HIV, TB, and cancer. We suggest establishing on a regular basis under the WHO auspices and with the regional office an exchange of experience between regional regulatory bodies and expert agencies in relevant fields, exchange of data on the assessment of the efficacy and safety of medicines, and also looking at price setting for medicines, and also looking at treatment standards for socially significant diseases. This will enable us to cut costs in the healthcare system, and it will increase efficacy when it comes to the treatment for patients. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I now give the floor to Armenia, followed by Belarus.
Distinguished guests, Armenia is in the process of harmonization of medicines legislation and regulation with Eurasian Economic Union norms and regulations. We would like to invite WHO to be a part of this legislation harmonization process. We think that EAU member states representatives here will agree with our suggestion. We believe that this is equally important both for our country and for all EAU member states. Harmonized registration will affect access to high quality and safe essential medicines and commodities for millions of our citizens. We are confident that WHO participation in the legislation harmonization process will help to align these normative acts to WHO recommended standards. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Armenia, and I now give the floor to Belarus, followed by Belgium.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. The Republic of Belarus supports the WHO initiative to increase access to medicine. Belarus is politically committed to ensuring access to medicine at the highest political level. I would like to recall that in November 2016 in Minsk, there was the regional consultations on increasing access to quality and inexpensive treatment for TB for Europe and Central Asia. As a result, we adopted a declaration on TB. Belarus is taking every possible step to implement this approach. In the country, all of the instruments are being used to reduce medicine costs, including updating procurement mechanisms. We have consultations and negotiations when it comes to prices with medical providers. There's also the issue of intellectual property and its compliance with our national legislation. Steps are being taken to bring our efforts in line with WHO recommendations. We support further steps to develop common goals for price setting among countries. And this is particularly important to solve price-setting issues. In addition, I would like to have further information on the prices on the market of neighbouring countries. An important element here is training specialists who take part in procurement processes. Belarus is taking every step to improve the provision of medicine throughout Belarus, and we support any WHO initiatives along these lines. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I give the floor to Belgium, followed by Greece.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Belgium aligns itself with a statement made by Estonia on behalf of the EU and its member states. Belgium welcomes the document on strengthening member state collaboration on improving access to medicines in the WHO European region. We strongly appreciate the guidance and we support the strategy WHO is following in this matter. We accept this to be a very complex issue in which an all-encompassing solution is difficult to realize. It is our opinion that bottom-up initiatives between member states, where possible with the support of WHO, are of great value and can lead to best practices to be shared. As mentioned, the Belgian Minister of Public Health signed a joint declaration with the Netherlands, Luxembourg and Austria on intentions for collaboration on pharmaceutical policy. We are working on its implementation and are willing to share our experiences later on in the process. For Belgium, guaranteeing the quality of medicines is crucial at all times, including when medicines are being bought with development aid. This is why we support quality control mechanisms to improve access to medicines of better quality for all. Examples of this are the WHO Drug Prequalification Program and the Belgian QuaMed initiative. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, and I now give the floor to Greece, followed by Italy.
Dear Chair, dear colleagues, we welcome the initiative of the WHO Regional Office for Europe to reinvigorate and deepen the dialogue on the partnership between EU member states in the area of pharmaceutical policy. The imperative for universal, equitable and guaranteed access of patients to necessary drugs, particularly the innovative ones, is a core component of the WHO Health 2020 strategy and leaving no one behind. Greece supports the idea of cross-border cooperation aimed at joint negotiations for affordable prices and expensive drugs. Greece actively participates in the initiative of South European countries, whereas it is a party to the Valletta Declaration adopted a few months ago by 9 countries. The partnership has already taken its first steps. The framework is currently being set up. The technical teams held their first meeting in Cyprus and another meeting will follow in Rome. It is there where areas will be prioritized and high-cost drugs of mutual interest will be identified for the purposes of collective bargaining. As pointed out in Malta at the round table between states, the pharmaceutical industry and patient associations, the way to negotiating fair and socially acceptable drug prices, either nationally or transnationally, is a one-way street. There is only one way forward, that of partnerships and coordinated efforts to increase the bargaining power of individual member states vis-à-vis the pharmaceutical industry and powerful business interests which prevent access, fully commercialize pharmaceutical market, and widen healthcare inequalities. Our intention is to step up our efforts in search of new partnerships and joint actions in the European region. We need more social control over research, data and its costs, a transparent and reliable pricing and reimbursement system, institutional dialogue between member states, and the technical political support of organizations such as the WHO. Pharmaceutical policy should help eliminate inequalities in health and life expectancy due to economic, social and/or regional disparities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I now give the floor to Italy, followed by Turkey.
Thank you, Chair. Italy aligns itself with the Estonian statement on behalf of the European Union member states. Italy has made clear that innovative medicines are at the same time a major breakthrough and a new chapter in medical textbooks, as well as a critical challenge to the financial sustainability of our systems. We already included a specific provision worth 2% of the entire national health budget to supply anti-C hepatitis and immuno-oncogenic drugs to our patients. This would not be enough, though, and we estimate that unless we find different solutions to the current state of affairs, we will have to spend 50% of the national health budget on these drugs by 2025, which is clearly impossible. On the other side, we cannot deny access to the best and optimal treatment or choice for our patients. We cannot increase the co-payment required either, as patients are already contributing 15% from out-of-pockets to the global health budget, with obvious questions on fairness and equity raised in the domestic political dialogue. Joint procurement based on data-based analysis of needs, regional negotiation of tariffs, the possibility to extend the Doha Agreement provisions on TRIPS to meet what is becoming a public health emergency are all palliative measures that will not provide a fair and final solution. We can allow our patients to import needed pharmaceuticals from other countries as an exception to the IP's rules we all abide by. Yet again, this is not the structural solution required by the change in the treatment paradigm brought in by innovation. The Valletta initiative and platform promoted by our minister and their colleague in Malta that is gaining consensus with several other European Union member states is one of the possible strategic responses that calls for more debate and participation. We are confident we will be able to show positive results very soon, and will contribute to the regional dialogue with the best practice. We encourage more states to join in and strengthen its capacity. The Global Fund experience is another long-standing action that may offer possible alternatives to the current state of discourse with the pharmaceutical industry, as a new approach is needed to shape a better partnership. Public disclosure of research and development costs incurred by companies, as requested some years ago by the Obama administration, may also contribute fairness to the dialogue, as governments may agree for a burden-sharing strategy once figures are presented and discussed openly. At the same time, we cannot forget the global parallel market of counterfeit drugs that is flourishing, breaking an already fractured regulatory system worldwide and worth several billion euros per year, also using extensively the internet and other networks. This is something companies and governments may like to consider very carefully, as evidence says it may increase and break the IP protection system unless a new partnership is developed. WHO is in the ideal situation to lead this dialogue as an authoritative and honest broker. We strongly encourage the agency to follow up on the implementation of measures presented, which our Ministry and the National Regulatory Medicine Agency are definitely supporting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I give the floor to Turkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Regional Director and colleagues. We see that this issue is of concern to all member states, regardless of their income levels and strength of their health systems. It is good to see that good initiatives like Nordic Forum and Benelux A Group has been established to have close collaboration between that countries. We wish to see the short and mid-term outcomes and benefits of these initiatives. And we also wish that WHO should increase the intensity of efforts in this field, like we all did in AMR issue. As Turkey, we want to express our support to these activities and be a part of this collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I have no more member states on my list, so we will break for lunch. We will now continue our debate on agenda item 5D, strengthening member state collaboration on improving access to medicine in the WHO European region. And we will continue with the NGOs, and I would like to invite Stitching Health Action International to deliver a joint statement.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. The following statement is a shared document by Health Action International, European Public Health Alliance, Medicus Mundi International, Studiorum, International Association for Hospice and Palliative Care, and the International Federation of Medical Students Associations. Health Action International and endorsing organizations welcomes the opportunity to address this meeting. We acknowledge the working document strengthening member state collaboration on improving access to medicines in the WHO European region. Efforts to ensure universal access to medicines, including controlled medicines, is an increasingly pressing matter for member states. Therefore, the document is a valuable discussion tool to aid ongoing deliberations at the WHO and elsewhere. Outputs from a variety of institutions, such as the United Nations Secretary General's High-Level Panel on Access to Medicines, the WHO's Fair Pricing Forum, or the OECD's Sustainable Access to Innovative Therapies Initiative, constitute solid evidence of the growing support for a needs-driven R&D model, as well as greater transparency in R&D cost, pricing, and procurement procedures. Cooperation exercises such as the Valletta Declaration or the Benelux Joint Prices negotiations are further examples of country-led processes that WHO Euro should support. We positively note the values-based approach endorsed by the document and the strategic areas laid out for member state collaboration. We recommend, however, the inclusion of intellectual property management tools, particularly treat flexibilities like voluntary and compulsory licenses, which would enable member states to improve access to medicines and other health technologies, and, as such, be part of the technical cooperation provided by WHO Euro. Health technology assessment is fundamental for assisting national authorities in determining the added therapeutic value of new pharmaceutical products. It is crucial that HTA bodies, as well as regulatory agencies, base their evaluations on robust evidentiary standards. It is also essential that all clinical trial data is publicly disclosed. We call upon WHO Euro to promote region-wide capacity building on HTA, with the aim of correcting existing knowledge and expertise imbalances between member states. Finally, we wish to clearly state our commitment to the dialogue and engagement with all stakeholders. We reject and will oppose all attempts to curtail the legitimate voice of civil society organizations, be it at national or regional levels. I thank you.
Thank you very much, and I now give the floor to Thalassemia International Federation.
Honorable Chairman, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Thalassemia International Federation welcomes and endorses WHO efforts in strengthening member state collaboration on improving access to medicine in the WHO European region, especially as regards to the promotion of affordable medicines and the elimination of substandard and falsified medical products. Thalassemia and sickle cell disease are among the world's most common genetic disease and contribute hugely to the public health burden of affected countries. An estimated 7% of the global population carries an abnormal hemoglobin gene, including thalassemia. In the European region, there are more than 53,000 patients with thalassemia in sickle cell, millions of carriers, and around 1,800 new affected births per year. While these numbers are alarming, increasing due to migration and, most importantly, the absence or lack of implementation of effective national prevention and treatment policy in many countries of the region. Although the majority of thalassemia patients living in the European region, are more specifically in the European Union, have access to appropriate and nearly optimal care, including lifelong drug therapy and iron chelation therapy. Following the international guidelines, a number of countries outside the European Union face significant challenge in accessing timely and appropriate drug therapy. In addition, thalassemia patients are dependent on frequent blood transfusion and are thus at high risk of infection with transfusion-transmitted infection, including virus C. As a result, between 10 and 80% of patients globally and in some parts of Europe are having HCV positive, with increased risk of cirrhosis and hepatocellular carcinoma. All preventive measures adopted, such as HCV or HBV mandatory screening and HBV vaccination program, have significantly reduced new causes of infection in Europe, but the majority of all the patients remain infected and thus in need of antiviral drugs. Through this brief statement, TIF takes the opportunity to request from the Regional Committee for Europe to encourage member states to increase access of patients with transfusion-dependent hemoglobin disorder, including thalassemia and sickle cell disease, to timely, appropriate, and effective treatment for hepatitis C. Advocate for the adoption of the WHO fair pricing model by pharmaceuticals in order to guarantee access to safe, available, and affordable iron chelation drugs for all thalassemia patients. Promote the development of synergies between member states to increase their negotiation power for procuring new medicine and health technology. All above requests constitute the position of and consequence of the board directors of TIF and fall within the 63 WHA and WHO Executive Board Resolution on thalassemia and other hemoglobin disorders adopted in May 2010 and 2006. Finally, we would like to express our deepest appreciation for the ongoing productive collaboration between TIF and WHO and reiterate our firm determination and commitment to support all WHO efforts in placing hemoglobinopathies on the top of national health agendas of all countries of the European region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I now give the floor to the representative of the World Heart Federation.
Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, the World Heart Federation welcomes the inclusion of access to medicines as a cross-cutting issue on the WHO Euro Health Agenda, and we praise the committee's report for its recommendations for collaboration and partnership. The report notes the centrality of access to medicines for strategies on non-communicable diseases. This is especially true for cardiovascular disease, or CVD. CVD is the leading cause of death in Europe and Central Asia, despite the fact that 80% of premature heart disease and stroke is preventable. Due to changing epidemiological patterns and increasing prevalence of risk factors such as childhood obesity and physical inactivity among young people, this high burden is likely to continue. An affordable supply of medicines is vital to the management of chronic diseases such as CVD to avoid catastrophic out-of-pocket payments for patients, and we encourage governments to prioritize cardiovascular medicines based upon need and burden of disease. Though there are challenges in securing reliable access to essential medicines, they are surmountable through collaboration and innovative solutions. To support the recommendations in the report, we suggest the following 4 actions. Increase funding for essential cardiovascular medicines within national health budgets, especially those included as best buys in the updated Appendix 3 of the WHO Global NCD Action Plan. continue to invest in robust health information systems to monitor and report the burden of CVD at the national level in order to match supply of essential medicines with demand. Work with all stakeholders, including the pharmaceutical industry as appropriate, to achieve fair pricing and increase manufacturing capacity of generic essential medicines. And finally, establish and sustain pooled procurement mechanisms for NCD medicines. This approach has proved effective in securing affordable and high-quality medicines, both within the Euro region and in other WHO regions. We reaffirm our commitment to collaborating with WHO Euro member states and all stakeholders to support access to cardiovascular medicines. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I now give the floor to the representative of Doctors Without Borders.
Doctors Without Borders continues to witness the significant challenges that patients in our medical operations face to secure affordable medicines and vaccines. Today, the lack of needs-based innovation and affordable medicines affect all countries, including some of the wealthiest in Europe. There are clear measures all governments can take to address the failures of our current approach to medical innovation. There is a need for greater transparency along the whole R&D process, from the cost of research and development, manufacturing, and the final price of the medicine. Like in other regions, WHO can promote and provide technical assistance for the use of TRIPS flexibilities to ensure affordable medicine prices in the Euro region. Many countries today are unwilling or unable to use these legal rights. And we need new approaches to research and development that meet patient needs, especially ending the reliance on the expectation of high prices and monopolies to pay for the innovation. We are concerned that these clear recommendations, backed by numerous expert groups, including the UN High-Level Panel on Access to Medicines, are under threat by industry-generated ideas, in particular, a value-based approach for pricing. This is the wrong policy model to use to establish prices for life-saving medicines or for achieving cost containment. Such a model is often used for consumer goods, which are priced accordingly to their perceived value, as well as the highest prices the market can pay for them, rather than on the cost production plus a reasonable profit. Life-saving medicines are per definition invaluable, and adopting such a policy directly leads to the very high prices those European patients and member states pay for their medicines. High prices are not the only challenge European patients face. Tuberculosis continues to pose a major health threat to the WHO Euro region, with 32,000 tuberculosis deaths in 2015 and a mounting epidemic of drug-resistant TB. 1 in 5 multi-drug-resistant TB cases globally in 2015 occurred in the European region, most of them in Eastern Europe. It's the moment for countries to embrace new R&D approaches which can deliver better and affordable treatments faster, including creatively combining push, pull, and pull incentives that promote collaborative and open research efforts to address unmet health needs. For example, the 3P project to develop and improve short-course TB regimes. Finally, we hope that any future WHO strategy to promote innovation and access ensures coherence between different WHO initiatives, supporting and building upon the global strategy and plan of action, the consultative expert working group, and the UN high-level panel on access to medicines. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have no more speakers on my list. We received an additional joint statement by the International Association for Hospice and Palliative Care and Worldwide Hospice Palliative Care Alliance, and another one by the International Federation of Medical Students Association. You will find them on the website. And I would now like to invite Dr. Kluge to respond to the comments made.
Thank you very much, Madam Executive President, and the Member States and the partners. I think this was what I would call a very content-rich discussion, for which I would like really to express appreciation to everyone, highlighting the challenges, the complexity of the topic, and the wide-ranging impact of equitable, sustainable access to medicine. In fact, many of you have highlighted the importance of documenting experiences and creating evidence for action, which is exactly what we are writing in the document. I am pleased to share with you as an example that our office is currently working on a report documenting reimbursement policies in the region, along with an analysis on how countries have focused on affordability, in particularly for the vulnerable groups. We also agree on a global and holistic approach and other issues beyond the intellectual property rights, which is why our approach in the document is stepwise and really supporting country collaboration in the spirit of mutual trust. Most of the initiatives, let's say the cross-country initiatives we heard, were from the European Union, but there was one initiative which I think I should express particular appreciation because it's for the Eastern Europe, was mentioned by the delegation of Belarus. Was the meeting last year in Minsk. I understand that the delegation in Belarus left already, but I think it's still, we have a whole range of Russian-speaking countries in the room, so I think this, I would like to highlight this.
We would like to thank the government and the Ministry of Health from Belarus. We'd like to thank them for conducting a high-level regional meeting for Eastern Europe and Central Asian countries. And this conference was devoted to the issue of access to affordable AMRs and medicines against tuberculosis that would be of a guaranteed high quality. The results of that conference and its concluding declaration were wholeheartedly supported by Madame Jakob, our regional director. This meeting also gave us a unique opportunity. We were able to discuss the role of WHO in the field of standardizing medical products, including therapeutic tissues and other products. And we were also able to look at the issue of cooperation between WHO and the Eurasian Economic Community. We believe that this is something that can really be developed in future, and it's very much in line with the issues we are considering at present and the results we're expecting to achieve. So let me once again say to our colleagues from the Eurasian Economic Community, you can count on our full support.
On the statements of the NGOs, I think these were some very useful points. Obviously, we cannot cover everything in the stepwise approach in the document, but many of the issues and the points that you highlighted are in fact on the global agenda. And for this, once again, I would like to highlight the presence of Madame Souhil from the WHO headquarters, as this in fact was also one of the requests, and we are fully aware of this, to work hand in hand. I mean, this is, after all, a global issue, and we will continue to consult and involve the civil society in developing the evidence base. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kluge. We can now turn to the adoption of the draft decision in document EUR/RC67 Conf Doc 9. And we have one amendment, and I would kindly ask our rapporteur to read out this amendment.
In operative paragraph 2, there is a suggested change proposed by the EU to insert the words technical support on after the words regional office for Europe. And the paragraph with the proposed amendment reads, supports the focus of the WHO Regional Office for Europe on technical support on pricing and reimbursement, strategic procurement and information sharing, and mutual learning as 3 key areas for action in promoting the efforts of member states and in facilitating their collaboration on the advancement of the access to medicines agenda in the European region.
Thank you very much. May I kindly ask the Estonia, I understood it's on technical support and on pricing, just for clarification. Could you help me, please?
Yep, just a moment, let me open it up. So the amendment is just to add 3 words on technical support. So it reads, supports the focus of the WHO Regional Office for Europe on technical support, and then it continues as it used to on pricing and reimbursement, so on and so on.
Thank you very much. That helps a lot. Is the committee now ready to adopt the decision as amended? I see no objection. Then the decision is adopted as amended.